Hello, today's episode is titled Getting Confidence and Keeping It. Confidence is a big one at all levels in baseball. And I hear all the time from younger players and their parents, and really all ages, but I hear this: my kid has no confidence, or he's struggling with confidence. And right away, when I hear that, I kind of sit down and talk with them, first of all, explaining the reality and the difficulty in the sport. So many people have a perception of baseball because it's, lumped in with a lot of other sports that, positive results may come just as easily as they do in other sports, and that's not the truth. I mean, for me, I think baseball is the most difficult sport, especially one of the major, popular sports. And I don't mean that to knock any other sport, but there's just such a high level of hand-eye coordination, reaction, involved, along with the technical, mechanical aspects of things such as hitting, throwing, fielding. So the first thing I want to do is, for someone who's saying, hey, I need more confidence, or my kid's not confident enough, is explain to them the realities of it, all right? So someone who might be coming as a young athlete from a sport like soccer, and not to knock soccer at all, but if you have a 6 or 7, 8-year-old kid running around kicking a soccer ball, at that level, you can't do a lot wrong, and everybody's happy at the end of the match. And, for that reason, the simplicity of soccer and what it is, especially at those early stages, and that's why, most parents start their kid out in soccer. That's actually, I think, one of the first thing I did was play soccer. But there's not much failure in soccer, okay? Your kid's not going to end up crying after the game because he did so poorly, on an individual basis in a soccer match. Whereas, that same 6, 7, 8-year-old in baseball goes up there, has an at-bat. He's standing up there all by himself. Bases are loaded. Everybody's yelling and screaming. The spotlight is on him. And if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't expect good results, and therefore there's a sense of failure when you don't do well, and then it's magnified just so much more in baseball and rather than in other sports. If you've listened to me before, you've heard me comment on how I believe baseball is an individual sport in a lot of aspects. I know in some cases, obviously, it's a team sport and the whole winning thing. But as far as, developing skill and confidence on an individual basis is so important, because your team's not helping you out a lot. No one's passing you the ball. No one's doing anything for you when you're hitting or fielding. So, it's so much, the focus and center of attention is so much more on an individual basis in baseball. So it makes something like confidence that much more difficult to obtain, right? You get exposed in baseball, your vulnerability in baseball. You really throw yourself out there in baseball. Playing a position like shortstop, or, you're out there on an island. The ball's going to find you. The ball's going to be hit to you in the outfield, any position. When you get up to bat, it's just you. It's such magnified the responsibility of the individual in the game of baseball. So the first thing I like to do is really just have people realize how difficult the sport is, and we don't get results as quickly, as consistently in baseball as we do in other sports. We've all heard the terminology, if you hit 300, you're considered one of the best of all time, so your success rate, you're going to fail more times than you succeed, and that's true, and there's truth to that. But we want to keep that in perspective. So when a young player, and I'll get to the older players in a minute, but when a young player or parent just say, hey, my kid I need to build confidence in my kid. Okay, there's not a light switch for that. You can't snap your fingers at that. It comes in the form of the process. Again, you've heard me talk about the process, and the process is learning, applying what you learn, putting into practice what you're learning, physically, and then mentally. But, you build confidence in practicing. But you got to know what you're practicing, and that's why I'm such a big fan of going out, seeking help, getting instruction, learning about your craft. You don't just sleepwalk through this whole thing and absorb stuff if you're not putting yourself out there willing to learn in such a skill-driven sport like baseball. I mean, you have to do that. So you're going to get your confidence through learning and practicing, applying and repeating and tweaking and making adjustments, and then the outcome is you're going to get a little better than you were before. And when that process takes place, this thing we call confidence starts to creep in a little bit, and you start to get a sense that, I'm getting better. I can do this better now, a little bit better from before. And then we're always, going back to that process, putting ourselves in it, dedicating the time, sacrificing to get in there, practice more, learn more. Experimentation, do different drills, talk to different people, learn from different people, and then practice yourself and gain that confidence. For example, I remember doing stuff like throwing a tennis ball against the garage door and just, with no glove on, so bare hand, you're really getting that good reaction, that accelerated bounce from a bouncy ball. And, you're developing these hand-eye coordination skills that, it could have been one of the best things I ever did as a young kid, I call it kind of silly or stupid practice now, but it's invaluable. It holds so much. It pays dividends down the road when you do stuff like that. And that's just the individual kid out there by himself with a tennis ball thrown against a wall and catching it, and then you practice catching it with the other hand, and then you practice, catching it with two hands, and then you put your own little twist and turn on it. And, for me, it developed me into a very, very, very good defensive shortstop with some really, good qualities, soft hands, good feet. So the first rule and the simplest rule in obtaining the confidence is get better. And again, I don't want to go on too much about how to get better. We've talked about the player development process and other things, and we'll continue to talk about stuff on how we can get better physically. But we're talking about confidence. You want to get more confident, you have to get better. And then with these degrees of success, you start to feel this thing called confidence, and it starts to creep into your system, into your body. And it does. It shows. It shows in body language. It shows in performance. So it's a wonderful thing. Everybody wants it, but we can't just, buy it at the store. You have to put the time in. You have to learn, apply, practice, experiment. Part of it is figuring things out on your own. Part of it is getting outside help and resources, coach, mentorship, trainers, whatever. And you're putting it all together in this pot. And when you come out of that pot, on the other end, you're better for it. And then now you're starting to acquire confidence. You have to pay your dues. You have to pay into that to get something in return. And in return, that confidence comes very slowly. little stories I always tell players is, everybody knows who Derek Jeter is, and I think it was early, maybe his first full professional baseball season as a young player, 19 years old or whatever, as a shortstop. I think he committed 56 or 58 errors in a professional season, like 120 plus games or something, So here you have what's, turned into one of the, greatest shortstops of all time in the game. And this guy was making, tons of errors, yet we think, the perception is as a young player, if I kick a ball around in the infield or make a bad throw that, I'm not good at this. And it's simply not the case. We have to learn about the difficulties of the game, how it's literally part of the game. When we see that little box score in baseball, just even at the highest level, Major League Baseball, at the end is that E category. You don't see a lot of games where it's 0-0, like nobody made an error, and these are the best players on planet Earth. So when we rewind, 20, 25 years back for, as a 6 or 8 or 10-year-old, that's just part of the game. It's part of the game at the highest level. It's part of the game at the lowest level. Errors and mistakes. It's how you overcome them. It's how you deal with them. And I guess it's what I'm saying by how you do that with the mistakes and errors is you learn from them and you make adjustments from them. So in a sense, these mistakes, these errors are, little blessings, little tidbits given to you that say, hey, you made a mistake. Can you overcome it? Can you make adjustments so the mistakes don't happen more frequently? You want to not eliminate, but lower the amount of frequency of these mistakes, and you become a really good player, offensively, defensively, by doing that. So at the, as you develop and get older and at the higher levels, confidence comes and goes. I mean, what a lot of people won't understand is even at the higher levels, the highest level, I mean, there are Major League Baseball players that will tell you that they've had at-bats where they feel like a fish out of water and they're so out of it mentally, physically, and they might be in the midst of a slump where they feel like they're just dead on arrival, that they're out before they even get in the batter's box and they have zero chance. And you kind of, I've been there where you have this sense of, well, I might not ever get a hit again. That's just how poorly physically and mentally you feel about your actions at the time. And then on the flip side of that is we hear the term, we're in the zone and everything's just coming easily and everything's, physically and mentally you're just locked in and, I'm not going to go on and on about the zone. You can do more research on that, but basically, that's just when you're reacting and you're not, there isn't this, 100-step process to success. It's just, you're trusting the process. You're trusting your training. You're believing in, that what you have to do, you're well trained. It's going to be there when you need it. And I think that's important to understand is the word trust. If you work hard and you train hard and you have good resources around you and you've done your experimentation in practice and you're acquiring all these results in practice and you're studying them, the good and the bad, and you're tweaking and making adjustments, and then you come out with a semi-finished product, when it's game time, you go out there and you trust that and you accept what the game or the results give you based on that. I'm not talking about lack of effort ever either. I'm talking about production and results. So confidence comes in the result, in the form of, doing better at performance, but trusting the process and getting the most out of that process that you can. And when you come out of it, you're going to be better. And when you get better and your results are better, this confidence starts to seep into you. And then now, as far as it coming and going, these are the ebbs and flows of the game. The peaks and valleys, and baseball, again, is such a difficult sport that you're going to get these. We know the term slump, and, as a hitter or a fielder, fielders can go into slumps. And, pitchers struggle with their command and accuracy and confidence just as well. So no one's protected against this thing called failure on a baseball field. So it's naive to believe that we can just get this confidence somewhere. It's only through hard work, and I think it's the most overlooked aspect from a parent's point of view and a lot of coaches' point of view, is that this game is easy to do, and it's really not. And I think when you strip it down and you start to have the attitude and mentality of, I've got to get to work on this thing. I've got to learn more about it. I've got to investigate about why I might not be good at this. You're going to get to the root of some problems, and it's going to lead to some good things because you'll work your way out of it. You'll work your way out of it. You continue to work, but smart. Don't just work. I'm not impressed by the kid that takes 100 swings a day. I'm impressed by the kid that is working on stuff while he's taking those 100 swings, or getting a lesson or talking to an expert about those things and learning the material. Study, learn it, and take the test. The games are like tests, but it goes back to the whole problem in youth baseball right now is these games, everybody plays more games and they practice less now. So games, tournaments, and it's unfair for everybody, because why kids wash out so quick nowadays is because they sign up for a team and then they go play all these games, and they never had the time to get the repetitions in and practice. So again, I just stated that you build your confidence through practice, through learning, through applying, through experimentation, through going through the trials and tribulations, right? So if we sign up for a team and just get thrown into the test and we don't know the material, what happens? What happens when you don't study for a test in school? Good luck. Hang with them, as they say, right? You got no chance. You're dead. It's not going to happen. And it's certainly not going to happen consistently, right? So what you see at the younger ages in youth baseball is, the physically advanced kid is going to excel, but a lot of times we all know the story that kid doesn't end up becoming the best high school player or the kid going on to play college or professionally. He just was dominant physically at a young age, and he could get through that process. But when it came time, when everybody catches up, the cream rises to the top, and then a little bit more of the mental side starts to come into play a lot more. And then, you're creating really good players based on physical and mental, not just physical. And as we know, much of that confidence comes from a mental state. So, that's the issue nowadays is everybody's playing, and taking tests, and no one's studying, no one's doing the repetitions, no one's practicing. And in a lot of cases, if they are, they're not surrounded by good people. Practices aren't run the correct way, repetitions aren't dispersed evenly, and kids aren't getting enough, practice time in. And again, that's why it's highly advisable to lean on, that individual instruction, lesson-based training as well to further enhance the overall production as a player. So confidence, such a key word. I'm glad we're talking about it. I think it needs to be talked about, but there's a big sense of reality, like a dose of reality to remember how difficult this sport is. and that confidence is achieved. It's not like just given to you. It's not handed out. A lot of it is the people around you and how they react. It's truly disgusting when you go to a 10-year-old baseball game and the oohs and ahs when a kid strikes out or swings at a bad pitch or makes an error. And what you have in those cases is usually a lot of parents that don't understand how difficult it is, and they want to come down on their kid like they're not good. And then listen, all this stuff is absorbed by the player, by the young kid. At any level. Imagine a major leaguer making an error to lose a game in front of 50,000 people. We're human, so these emotions are real. It affects that person greatly, and that could just as well put that player, who's at the highest level and awesome, into, this lack of confidence slump type of thing. So what do you think it does to a young player? And so we have to be careful. Positive reinforcement is real, but it's got to be handled. You don't just go patting everybody on the back every time they make a mistake. It's important that they learn and why they made it, and learn how they can avoid it the next time, to increase their chances to avoid the mistake the next time. And then through that process, you become better, you gain confidence. When you can do something well and you know the material well, your confidence is high. If I had never played baseball in my life and someone put a microphone in front of my face and said, speak about confidence as it relates to baseball, I wouldn't get through it because I wouldn't have the confidence or the understanding and learning. But that's my point, is I would have never learned the subject matter. So how could I get through it? How could I feel good doing it? Whatever I think about myself in this field, I know the subject matter. And I feel I know it very well, to the point where I could speak all day on it. And there's a sense of confidence that comes, you feel good. Yeah, I can speak about it. And that's what you get in any field, in any topic, any business. That's why we call experts. That's why we seek out experts to handle our issues in life. And that's why people specialize in things. They've learned the subject matter inside and out. They have a certain level of confidence in their job, and it's the same thing for an athlete, and it's the same thing for a baseball player. So as long as we understand, where that confidence is coming from, when it peaks its head and then when it goes away, and the balance that comes from how to maintain it, we want to keep that confidence. And that goes more into controlling your emotions. Something that, I personally struggled with greatly was just understanding, how to control your emotions. And ultimately, whenever, I always tell players, whenever you feel a negative, feeling based on one of your results, you make an error, you strike out, instantly, because we're humans and we have emotions, we don't feel good about that. It sucks. You see kids crying at a younger age. You see guys throwing their helmet or, throwing their bat or whatever, yelling and screaming, punching things. And obviously they're handling it wrong. And, I've done it before. I see it you see it now. And what I do to teach that now is I say, when you feel those emotions creeping in, you have to divert those emotions into making adjustments and understanding and realizing, and turn it into a teaching moment rather than just this whole blowing off steam. I got to yell and scream and punch something and throw something, because, the players that are using that time more valuable, calmly sitting down, being reflective, understanding how they can do things better the next time, what they're going to do to make the adjustment, and then, 15, 20 minutes later, having that next at-bat or that next opportunity or chance, and doing well at it based on their reflectiveness, sitting on the bench, thinking about what they're going to do their next opportunity, rather than, taking swings at the water cooler with their bat like a wild man. And, a lot of people have done that, but they don't do it a lot, and it's not good. They understand it. It's not good for anything. That does not solve anything. If it worked, we'd be practicing how to throw our helmets and stuff like that, but it doesn't. So, as far as how to maintain and keep that confidence when it comes, and then when you get into that slump and results aren't good for that moment in time, how we react and how we control our emotions and where you focus your time, energy, and focus. Where is that energy going? Is it going towards throwing your helmet or sitting down calmly and being reflective and saying, I know exactly what I did and I know exactly what I need to do to give myself a better chance my next opportunity. So that's a good way to practice maintaining your confidence. So realize just what I just said. Practice keeping your confidence. A lot of people don't realize that you have to practice the mental side of the game. All we know, for the most part, is how to practice the physical part, right? Go out and take swings, take batting practice. Go out and, catch and throw balls and do that as much as you can and you'll get better. Yeah, a little bit, but at the higher levels as you get older, what's separating these guys is the mental aspect of the game too. And, you have to practice the mental side of the game. If someone has problems with their emotions and they're wild and crazy, yelling and screaming, and their body language sucks, or they hang their head when they make a mistake, you need to practice that. It's okay. A lot of people come under those emotions, but you have to practice it. So when it comes up in game situations or practice situations, nip it right there and say, hey, I'm forever practicing controlling my emotions and being reflective based on my performance and then making the adjustments. It's why teachers are so important in school when they, grade the test and make remarks and this and that. It's all for the benefit of doing better the next time or learning from it. So essentially, these little pitfalls on a baseball field, these failures, if you turn them into learning experiences, and then apply the practice time, the experimentation, the learning, the applying, the adjustments, you're going to come out the other end better. And you do this year after year, year after year, you're really gaining a lot of ground on your competition and making yourself become the best player you can possibly be. And it's very important to see it like that. Okay? It's very important to see it that way, from that standpoint. So that's pretty much it. Even the title, Getting Confidence and Keeping It, it's such a statement, but looking at it, it's like, wow, it's so difficult, to do that. So we don't want to take that lightly. And that's kind of like the topic, and why I chose to talk about it is because I hear it so often. How do I get confidence? My kid doesn't have confidence out there. So hopefully after today, listening to this, you have a little better understanding, at least on what my opinions would be. And I appreciate y'all listening. And if you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and keep up with Facebook updates, I appreciate it. And that's all I got.